will interfere with the others' concentration, right? And their focus of the lesson. Okay, so thank you again for being on time. The time now on my watch is coming to 11:30. So we will begin promptly and I will end before 12 o'clock so that everybody has the rest of the day to enjoy. Okay, so thank you. I'm glad to see that there are more than 20 of you online already. That's awesome, right? So if you are unable to catch all of this or you need to replay it, there will be a recording, which I'm currently doing, of this session, and then you will all be able to see and review it. All right, so today I'm going to cover on comprehension strategies, okay? The last time we did on strategies, we were covering comprehension closed passage, which is missing words. Today, I'm looking at comprehension. The difference is I'm looking at the passage, I'm reading it, and then I'm answering questions, right? That's comprehension, okay? So I want you all to think of it in terms of what strategies I can use in order to make sure that my answers are accurate and that I get the maximum marks from this section of the exam paper. So I'm very, very focused on exam skills today. I'm not talking about reading strategies. I'm talking about strategies you can use to make sure you get the correct information from the text so that you can answer the questions accurately. Remember, the question is the king. The question is what it is. You cannot change the question, right? So you must always answer the question. You cannot give an answer that does not answer the question. So today, I will introduce you to 8 strategies, out of which I will only have time to cover 4, right? So 4 of the 8 strategies that will help you to make better meaning, understand the passage better, and then answer the questions more accurately at the same time, okay? So today's strategies will be as follows, okay? Wait, I'm sorry. Let me just go into the strategies first, and I'll cover what I glossed over in the last 2 slides, okay? So these are the 8 strategies, okay? So the first strategy is to self-monitor, right? We don't have enough time to cover all of them, so I will only cover the ones in red, okay? So I want you to focus your attention on the words that are in red, right? I will go into more detail on these 4: summarizing, asking questions, generating questions, and also identifying text structures, okay? So these are the 4 I will focus on today. And the other ones in black, I will cover on another day, right? So think of this as part 1, all right? And if you can master part 1, we'll move on to part 2. And part 2 is going to be a bit more advanced and difficult, okay? So let's work with the simpler ones first. We begin, right, by talking about why it is important to do comprehension, right? Comprehension allows us to understand and interpret what is being read. I'm sure you're all aware that when you read something, you don't just read it, you must also understand it, right? Because when you understand it, then you can use it, right? If you don't understand something, it's just words on a page, right? But when you understand it, you can use the knowledge to improve your life, or use the knowledge to show other people better ways to do things, or use the knowledge to make your life more beautiful, or make your life more interesting, or entertain yourself, right? So understanding and interpreting text is what comprehension is all about. And that's what Mr. Pang hopes to teach you. So you become better comprehenders of English, and then you live better lives because you can understand things better. Okay, so that is the purpose of comprehension, and it involves extracting meaning, taking meaning out that's hidden in the passage. It involves thinking about this meaning that you've just taken out, and then it involves connecting what you've taken out from the passage to what you already know in your head, so that what's in your head grows bigger, right? So you get more knowledge, you make more connections, and you understand better. Okay, so that is comprehension. And comprehension takes place in this process called metacognition, which is you mustn't just think, but you must think about how you are thinking, right? Okay, have you all had this experience where you've thought about something, then you realize that what you thought about was not really very good or was a bit silly? Have you all had that feeling before? Yes, right. Maybe you thought about, I think I'm going to drink a bottle of soda, right? I'm going to drink a bottle of soda, right, from the fridge. And then the next thought you had was, hey, wait a minute, sodas aren't very healthy, right? If I drink a whole bottle of soda, I'm probably going to get a cough, or I'm probably going to get, diabetes because there's so much sugar in it. Have you ever felt this way before? Have you ever felt that way? Yes? Yeah. That process of thinking and then thinking about what you just thought is called metacognition, right? It's your ability to judge whether what you're thinking is good or bad. All right, so that's metacognition. And some of these strategies will help you to become better thinkers because you will think about how you are thinking. And then you will stop yourself from bad thinking and you will do more good thinking. So do you understand metacognition, everybody? Very important, huh? Because thinking is the most important skill you have, you know. As human beings, we are the only animals that think, right? All other animals just react. But as human beings, we think about what we are doing, and we are able to think about better ways to do things, all right? So that's what metacognition is, and I hope that these strategies today will teach you how to think better. Think better, right? Think better. That's the third time I've said it, huh? That's how important it is, okay? So we want to think better. So when we use metacognition, we make predictions about what we're reading, we make connections about what we're reading, we ask questions to clarify or make things clearer about what we're reading, we identify difficult sentences, passages, or words, and we try to find out what they mean. We also try to say the story out in our own words so that we can understand it better. And finally, we come up with our own feelings. We respond to the text. We like it, we don't like it, we think that it is a bit strange, we are confused by it. So our reaction and feelings are all part of thinking about thinking as we read the text, okay? So all of these are metacognitive skills, some of which I will cover in today's 4 strategies, okay? So far, does what Mr. Pang say make sense? If it does, please nod your heads. Yeah, okay, awesome. I see lots of nods, huh? No questions, right? Anybody doesn't know what's going on? Who is Mr. Pang? You all know who is Mr. Pang, right? You know why you are here today, right? You know we're talking about comprehension strategies and metacognition, right? Okay, very good, right? So if you have no questions, can I move on to the next section where I'll introduce the 4 strategies to you? Awesome. So far, you're all doing well, right? You're all able to be seen on your computers, and I can see that you're all attentive. Your eyes are focused on the screen. Very good. Okay. Please adjust your cameras if your face is out of the frame. I want to make sure that I can see your full face, including your mouth, right? So that if you say something, I can see that your mouth is forming the words, all right? Thank you very much. Okay, let's go. So first strategy I want to talk about is summarizing, okay? Summarizing is fun. It's kind of cool, right? Because summarizing is taking something really big and squeezing it until it becomes really small, right? Big to small. That's summarizing, okay? What do I mean by summarizing? It means that we are able to identify the main ideas of what we are reading. Have we been doing a lot of main ideas and supporting details, everyone? Yes? Right? We've been doing a lot of that, right? For the last 2 units, we've been talking a lot about main ideas, supporting details, main ideas, supporting details, right? So you're all experts in this, which means that you must apply what you learn in Stella even into your reading comprehension. It's not limited to Stella readers, right? It's not limited to when we do like The World Beyond Us, right? Whenever we read any passage, we are able to identify the main ideas, and I'll show you later, and we are able to identify the supporting details in that passage. And when we do so, we understand the passage better, and we are able to answer the questions better as well. Do you understand summarizing? That means I take a lot of text, and then I summarize it, or I squeeze it down into one main idea, or I squeeze it down into 2 or 3 supporting details. That's as simple as that. We've already learned this. And what this process is called it's called gist. Everybody say gist. Just say it to yourself. Gist. G-I-S-T. Gist. Right? The gist of a story is the main idea and the main supporting details around that idea. Right? When I condense a story or when I condense a text down to its main ideas and supporting details, I am making a gist. Not a ghost, a gist, okay? A gist is a summarized version of a story or a piece of text, okay? And it's very important that you are able to make a gist whenever you read a passage, okay? So always remember to make a gist whenever you read a passage. Before you even answer the questions, before you do anything else, in your head, you must construct the main idea and the supporting details of the passage. Very often, the main idea is also the title of the story. Do you all agree with me? Right? If my story is entitled The World Beyond Us, then of course I'm talking about space, outer space, right? If my story is The Big Bad Wolf, then of course my story is going to revolve around a wolf, right? And if it's The Little Red Riding Hood, then again, you know, my title often gives me the main idea of the story. That's why it's called a title, okay? So very easy, first strategy, summarizing. Now let's have a look All right. So for every paragraph, you can do summarizing, okay? Because every paragraph will have its main idea and its 2 or 3 supporting details. All right. And what you can do is you can do this. You can highlight the important details and the keywords or main ideas. You can cross out repeated ideas or cancel away words that are not important. And then you can actually use what you have highlighted to answer the questions that will appear later, right? That's what I mean by annotating the text, right? You are reading, you are underlining, you are highlighting, you are canceling away unimportant details, and then you are focusing on what's truly important. Okay, so summarizing helps you to zoom in on what's really important in the passage. Any questions so far? No? What was the word that I taught you that is new today? Gist. G-I-S-T. Right? What is gist? Gist is summarizing an entire passage down to its main idea and supporting details. What is gist? Gist is summarizing a story or a text down to its main idea and supporting details. When I ask you, what is gist? Will you be able to answer me? Nod your heads if you can answer me. Yes, okay, I say again, the gist of a story is when you summarize that story down to its main ideas and supporting details. When I see you tomorrow along the corridor, if I ask you what is gist, can you tell me what's a gist? Yes. Okay, let's practice. Okay, let's see who is the most confident here who can tell me what is gist now. In your own words, don't have to be exactly what I said. Who wants to volunteer to tell me what is gist right now? Besides Keen, who has already answered. Okay, Javen, go.
To break down a text or a story to its main idea.
And what else?
Supporting details.
Very good. Thank you very much, Javen. Remember, it's not just the main ideas, okay, Javen? It's also the important details that support that main idea, right? So it's not just one sentence, it might be a few sentences because you're trying to summarize the entire passage. So good. Gist is when I take a story and I shrink it down, or I condense it, or I summarize it into its main idea and supporting details. That is gist. And these are some ways that I can do it with my paragraph, okay? So there is a template that we use, right? Can you notice here in point number 2, it says the 5 W's and 1 H. Okay, so this is a shortcut. If I don't want to read the entire passage and then go and summarize every paragraph, right? The shortcut might be to think about who, what, when, where, why, and how. In other words, when I read the story, I need to answer these questions. Who is in the story? What is the story about? Where is this story held? When did this story happen? Why is this story happening? And how did the character do what he did in the story? Who, what, when, where, why, how. Do y'all get it? So the who, why, when, where, why, how template is good for getting the gist from a story, a narrative. Got it? This is for a narrative. Do you all still remember what is a narrative? What is a narrative? What is another word for a narrative? Josiah, what's another word for a narrative?
Made up story.
Okay, very good. Yes, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you. A story, a made-up story, a fictional or not a real story. So a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. A story has characters. A story has a problem. A story has solution, right? Remember our story mountain, right? Introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and then coda and conclusion, right? So a story follows that structure. And a story always has who, what, when, where, why, and how. Always has that. So when I identify the who, what, when, where, why, how, I am able to get the gist of the story. Got it, everybody? But this doesn't work for narrative, for information text. You understand? What did I just say? It doesn't work for information text. You cannot get the gist by asking who, what, when, where, why, how. Imagine if I ask the outer space, the article on outer space, who? There's no who, right? Outer space is not a person, right? Planets are not people, right? When? Goodness, it happens all the time, right? It can be millions of years ago, it can be right now. So there's no who, what, when, where, why, how in information text. You can only use it for narratives. And like Josiah told us, narratives are stories with beginnings, middles, endings, characters, and morals of stories, okay? So remember, the gist template is only used for narratives, all right? So if you're reading a story, it's got a character, there's a problem happening, then you can use this template to get the gist of the story. So far, so good, everybody? All good? You're doing very well now, everybody. We are already halfway through the session. Okay, it's already 11:45. Good job, okay? And we are going to cover this very soon already. The other 3 strategies are quite easy. So this one takes a bit more time, okay? So let's take a look here at this article. Take a moment to read it. Okay, it's not very long. I purposely made it less than 150 words, okay? So it's a really short passage. Fabian, can you tell me what this passage is about?
The Northern Lights.
Yeah, it's very easy, right? I just need to look at the title, right? So again, the title gives me the main idea of any story, right? It's about the Northern Lights. By the way, does anybody here not know what is the Northern Lights or not? Who don't know what is Northern Lights? Raise your hand. Okay, never heard of Northern Lights before. Okay, thank you. The rest of you, have you heard of Northern Lights before? Yes? Something lah, right? You kind of know what's Northern Lights, right? Okay, Asher, can you tell us a bit about what you know about Northern Lights?
You can see Northern Lights in Northland, Ireland.
Northland? No lah. There's no such place as Northland. Yeah.
You can see Northern Lights in Greenland.
Greenland. Okay, yes. Greenland, right? Iceland, right? The northern countries, right? That's why it's called Northern Lights, right? Because you have to go very far up north to see these lights. Okay. Yeah. So you read it. It's basically about what the Northern Lights are. Okay. And now I want to summarize it, okay, into the main ideas and the supporting details. Can you see at the bottom of the text there is a section in red? Can you all see that? Yeah. Can you see that that is the summarized version of the longer article, right? Can you see it's a smaller version? Okay. Can you see that it has the keywords and the supporting details that are very important, but it cut out a lot of other things, right? Okay, so when I talk about summary, right, that's exactly what I mean. And many years from now, when you are in secondary school, you will be required to write your own summaries. It will be part of English. But don't worry, in primary school, you don't have to do this. Okay, but what I would like you to do is to have the skill to be able to read, right, and then come up with the main ideas and the supporting details in your heads. Don't have to write it out. Just have an idea. So in this case, right, the Aurora Borealis, which is the actual name for Northern Lights, they are bands of color in the sky. Okay? And then the people in the past thought that they were ancient dragons that flew through the sky on fire, right? But nowadays, modern scientists are still trying to discover what these lights actually are. Okay? So that's my summary, right, of this very long passage. And you can see, right, that when I'm able to summarize what I read, right, I can get the main ideas very quickly. And therefore, I can answer the questions that test me on whether I understand the main ideas or not. Very easy. I can pick it up straight away. These are the main details. Okay? So I'll give you a minute just to look at it a bit more. Do you understand why I've chosen what I've chosen as the main idea and supporting details? It's quite clear, right? Right. Those are the most important details, right? Those are the most important main ideas. Okay? Right. So let me move on. I don't want to take too long with one strategy. Okay? The second strategy is something that is my favorite. Right? I like to do this the most when I read, right? Any book that I read, I always ask questions. Okay, again, what kind of questions can I ask? Who, what, when, where, why, how? I can use these questions when I ask, right? About the book, right? Any book you read, I challenge you not just to read the book and then close the book and that's it. As you are reading, right, ask questions. Imagine the author is sitting next to you and ask the author those questions. Hey, excuse me, why did you write this? Right? What do you mean when you say this? Right? Why did you use this picture here? Right? If you are using a picture book, right? Why did you get your character to say this? Why did your character say this? When you ask questions, right? Sometimes the answer comes from your own head. Remember I talked about thinking, right? When we ask ourselves questions, very often a different part of our brain will answer that question. That's the awesome part about thinking, right? When we ask questions, we often trigger our own answers. Okay? So I want you to consciously read with questions in mind, right? As you are reading, ask yourself questions about what you are reading. There is no such thing as a silly question. Okay? In your own head, you can ask any question you like. Okay? You can ask any question you like. There's no such thing as a silly question, right? Just ask questions about the text. And if you know the answer, great. But what happens if you don't know the answer to the question you ask yourself about the text? What can you do to find out the answer? Anyone? What can you do to find out the answer if you're asking yourself a question about the text you're reading and you don't know the answer? Who or what can you do in order to answer that question? Rochelle, would you like to try that?
Just continue reading.
Okay.
Continue reading.
And then?
And then continue reading and find the part of the story.
You're on the right track. Carry on. Yes. Find the part of the story that what?
Find the part of the story and then refer back to what you have just read.
Okay. Awesome, Rochelle. That's great. I agree exactly with what Rochelle just said. Now, very often, the answer you are looking for might be further down in the text, right? So what Rochelle is telling us to do is to not stop there, but to keep on reading. But I have that question in mind, right? So that I look out for that answer as I'm reading, because often the author will bury the answer a little bit further down, close to where I've just encountered the question. Okay, so very good strategy. Keep reading, but have the question in mind. Don't stop reading. Very good. Awesome. What else can I do, right? If I ask a question while I'm reading and I cannot find the answer, let's say I continue reading very, very long way, and I still don't find the answer. What then can I do next after I cannot find the answer further down the text, right? Like what Rochelle suggested. What happens if I can't, still cannot find? Yes, Keen.
You can use Google.
Okay, right? You can ask someone, you could ask the internet, you could ask, your parents, you could ask Siri, I guess, you could ask a digital assistant, you could ask somebody near you, right? A knowledgeable adult who is maybe next to you as you are reading, right? You could type your query into a search engine, but you all must be aware. Remember, we talked about SURE, right? SURE, right? That not all results from search engines are reliable. Okay, so don't be over-reliant on results that you get from search engines. Okay, everybody, promise me you will check your answer and double check it with an adult if you are looking for things on the internet. And even then, please be supervised when you look for things on the internet. So very good, right? So ask and ask again. Ask and keep on reading are the two strategies that I would say are most important as you are reading any passage. But in the exam, are you allowed to ask your friend? Can you turn around to your friend behind you and say, hey, I don't understand this part of the passage. Can you help me? Are you allowed to do that? No lah, okay? So please be aware that in the exams, you must try to find the answers within the text itself by reading on. So the first option that Rochelle suggested is the best. Read on and look for the answer in the passage itself, okay? But you're not allowed to do the second option, which is to ask your friend, Not in the exams, but in the classroom, you can ask Mr. Pang, you can ask your friends, okay? Excellent. So what kind of questions, right? I like to introduce 3 words to you: literal, inferential, and evaluative, okay? You will hear this a lot in upper primary, but now you're in primary 4, right? So primary 4, you will get introduced to these words. So literal means the answer can be seen where it is in the passage. It's just right there, okay? I look in the passage, there, the answer is there, okay? Inferential means I need to think a bit deeper and I need to look at the clues in order to guess at the answer, right? That's a bit deeper. Evaluative means that I need to use my own thoughts, my own feelings, and then respond to what I read in the text, my own opinion. I got to come up with what I feel, what I think. So literal means it's right there, right? Inferential means I got to gather some clues to answer the question. It's a bit tricky. And evaluative means I have to think about it and come up with my own reaction and give reasons to support my reaction from the text. For example, I think Big Bad Wolf is a very bad character. Why? Because, he tried to eat grandma, right? So my feelings supported by evidence from the text. So those are the 3 kinds of questions that we often find when we are reading. Okay, right. Next one is linked to the first one. So when you ask questions, right, you got to write down the questions, right? So very often, a good place to write down the questions will be right next to where you are reading. So some of you, your storybooks, if you are not borrowing the book from the library, if you own the book, you can actually write questions in what you're reading, There's nothing wrong with writing in storybooks, right? Mr. Pang, when I was growing up, I used to write a lot of things in the books I was reading. Of course, not library books, my own books, books that I own. Okay? So don't be afraid of writing questions or, writing some comments or even your own answers and the margins of what you are reading, especially comprehension. Okay? Because that will help you to remember what you were thinking or what you were asking. Otherwise, you keep on reading, you will forget. Okay? So write down, write down these questions, right? Again, I talk about who, what, when, where, why, how questions, okay? And the last strategy is to identify the story or text structure, okay? What do I mean by that? Okay? Because what the story is will determine how you answer the questions. Some stories are information, some stories are narratives. So just be alert. In this case, cause and effect, compare and contrast, sequence, problem solution, descriptions are all different types of writing. And if you know what they are, then you will be able to find the answers much easier. It's like knowing how a bicycle works. Therefore, you can fix the bicycle if it breaks down. Okay? So you must know how different texts work so that you can find out where the answers are in these texts. Okay? Any questions so far? Right? I've already covered the 4 strategies, right? So I will give you an assignment on SLS to do. This assignment will only be released tonight. It's a comprehension passage that you will need to use these 4 strategies to answer. Okay? The questions will be grouped according to these 4 strategies. So you need to apply them in order to find the correct answer. So sometime at 8 o'clock tonight, I will release this SLS activity to all of you. If you forget what I said by tonight, right, you just review this video and the PowerPoint slides I will send out to you, and then you start to do the activity after 8 o'clock tonight. You don't need to finish it by tomorrow, this comprehension activity. You can finish it as late as this coming Friday. Okay, as long as we finish this before our WA. Okay, you all know when is our English WA, right? You know, right? Okay, so just make sure we finish this by the end of this Friday, right? It will be on SLS. It will be released by 8 o'clock tonight. And in the same assignment, I will also put this video as well as the PowerPoint slides. Okay, I will also send out the video and the PowerPoint slides to your parents in case, right, you would like to view the video while you're on the go, while you're on the move or something like that. That's also okay. All right. So I repeat again, your homework, right, is an SLS comprehension assignment that you will need to use these 4 strategies to solve, right? This homework will be released to you this evening, 8 o'clock. And you have all the way until this Friday, 5th of May, to complete this assignment. You do not need to do it by tonight. You don't need to finish it by tomorrow. Take your time, do it slowly, refer to the video and the strategies, and ask me in class if you have any questions or problems entering the assignment or completing it by Friday. Can everybody? All good? Any questions at all? I'm very prompt. It is now 11:59 on my watch. Okay, so I have kept my promise of not going beyond half an hour. If you have no more questions, then thank you for giving me 28 minutes of your time, 29 minutes, right? If that's all, then look out for the assignment in SLS. Thank you all for being so attentive, right? Our next few sessions, I will tell you when they are, will also be about half an hour long, right? So that you all won't feel tired at the end of it, okay? So we keep it short, but then we do extra work, right? If no more questions, all good, then I will see you all in class tomorrow. Remember to check your SLS this evening at 8 o'clock, right? Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Mr. Pang.
Bye.